how much you change and how much you keep the same as far as schemes and approaches and all that, where especially with this group that you know was used to what was in the past, are you having to kind of find that territory in different areas?
Yeah, I don't think it's, from a scheme standpoint, you can do whatever you want. That's not going to impact your team from that standpoint. But I think philosophically, yeah, because a lot of the stuff that was there, I believe in. Always have believed in it. And so, you know, you can come in there and change it just to change it, to say it's your own and all that, or I've just stuck with what I believe in, and there's a large percentage of it that Pete had done that I believe. And leaving and going to Texas just reestablished that even more. Going to Arkansas State just made me believe that with even more conviction of how we went about things at Boise. And we implemented that at Arkansas State. So part of that, you know, embrace the past. I mean, that was directly related to that. That, you know what, we're not changing just to change.
Yeah.
All right,
You're
if we
also wearing the future.
Yeah, and then that being said, exactly along with that was, but we're also not going to just stay the same and do these things exactly the same way. And you know what? Here's 5 or 6 new things in here that we need to do from this point to reestablish ourselves. So I looked at that very carefully, and you probably from an ego standpoint, you say you want to change something, but from a core standpoint, it's like, no, this is what I believe. This is what I think is important, and I wouldn't, whether who came up with it, it doesn't matter. I believe it. And so we kept those, and those remained the same in our program.
What was your guys' schedule this summer in terms of workouts and the PRPs? What was the schedule for the summer?
Yeah, 4 days a week lifting. They ran 3 times, and then PRPs, they had 3 of them throughout the week.
Was there a day they didn't do anything?
Wednesdays were the day offs.
Okay.
Wednesdays and Saturdays, you know, we had yoga on Saturdays.
Right.
Wednesdays are optional days. Saturdays are optional days in there as well.
Okay.
But we did have yoga, and we did have other like stretching and some things like that on Wednesdays.
Okay. Is there technically things that are mandatory now in the summer, or is it still technically voluntary?
No, I mean, technically, yes, you can make it that way, but I don't think anybody has changed. Because here's the thing. I mean, for the last 5 years, almost every program in the country, everybody's there.
Right.
So you could call it, and I think you probably had the mandatory, voluntary. You know, I mean, that's what the players would look at it like. But they're all there, and that really hasn't changed. They're going to be there. If they want to be successful, if they want to keep their position, they want to win, they're going to be there. So, yeah, technically, what you can do if a guy didn't show, yeah, you're in a position now to do some extra work for that. All right, you can hold guys and say you have to be there at 8 o'clock, and we really didn't ever talk about that. And we went back to business as like, this is how we do it. This is the summer program. Here's when you need to be here. These are the times these groups are lifting. Everybody nodded, and they got it done.
How'd you use your coaching hours this summer?
We used it for meetings. We had, you know, we could utilize up to 2 hours of meetings. I think we used about an hour or 45 minutes of meeting time a week. Used the opportunity on Mondays and Tuesdays to go out there and be a part of the run. And not really to do much within the run other than to encourage, watch, and be a part of it. You know, and really to more just for those relationship standpoint of just being around the guys more is what it was. I think this, and whether the physical activity you do that with the guys or not, and you know, guys have done drills and different things like you do in the off season. You can do that, and that's happened throughout the summer. But I think the one thing that I never liked was not having the opportunity to be around your players in the summer. When you're going to cut these guys loose for 2 months and there's 105 guys out there and you don't get to be around them, no. You need to continue to be talking and preaching your message.
Do you guys go to PRPs at all?
No, you can't do that.
Can't do that.
No,
okay.
no. Anytime there's a ball and all that.
Okay, that's right.
I sure thought when the rule was coming out, I'm like, we got to go to practice. And at one point, at one point we were interpreting like, yeah, I think you do, and I'm like, this is going to be great. But I'll say this: it'd be great for the 1 year. I don't think. I mean, even next year, I don't know how much will actually be out there even, because I still think that's a time for your players and your leaders to take over and coach up. And I think the guys learn a lot more from that.
You guys are done with the NCAA penalties. Technically, the 3 years runs out here shortly. You were a part of some of the stuff that went wrong, but you weren't really a part of any of this stuff the last few years. Do you go back and research what happened a little bit, educate yourself about it, or how do you sort of approach that?
Yeah, education. I mean, really, that's what it is. I don't think, and I'll talk the football program in particular, I don't think that you're ever, and at least in that situation, trying to do anything with intention to break a rule. All right. Obviously, from the NCAA, we made a mistake, and we got penalized for it. What we talk about with our staff, and we have compliance is growing at Boise State. There's more compliance people there. You meet every month. But anything you ever have an issue or a question or even some type of doubt, all you have to do is pick the phone up and get the interpretation and say, can we or can't we not? And to me, and it is about that, and there's reasons why there's rules in place because they've been broken, and so we need to follow and abide by them. And especially even more so now, when you've had a penalty like that, like anybody else, I mean, you're even more so looked at, and we understand that.
What do you see different 3 years later? I know there's more compliance staff members. What else do you see different in terms of the compliance side of things?
Well, there's more of an emphasis on it, from everybody. Not just the coaches, but your operations, your recruiting guys, interns, everybody that works in that building and everybody that's associated with your program understands the rules. And there's meetings about that we all sit in a room so we can understand the rules, that we do know to ask. And then I think utilizing our people in those situations, that's what's changed. You might sit there and I might grab the rule book out and thumb through it and read through, Rule 5.29, and now it's just like, hey, yes or no, and email it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to have it that you're doing things right, but you're a lot more aware of it, which is why they have the rules.
You meet with John once a month, or what's your?
We meet with the whole compliance staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
You or the whole
football staff
once a month.
Yep.
Just make sure everybody's on the same page, or what,
well,
what do you
yeah.
do in those meetings?
One is to go over any new, examples where people maybe have had issues. Hey, so this happened at so and so. Make sure this doesn't happen here. Any new rules that have come out, anything significant, and then also for our coaches to ask questions. Hey, this is coming up. What about this? And you get it all out there.
Did you do that at Arkansas State or Texas?
We did.
You did?
Yeah, we did. We did the same thing. So I think it was once a month at Texas, and then we did the same thing at Arkansas State.
When you were at Boise State before, were you in compliance meetings like that?
We were.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. It's really not too far off. We did have our compliance meetings. We didn't do it once a month, but they were, maybe 5 weeks. But the same thing. If there was a question, we usually picked up the phone and tried to have a conversation or go ask somebody that knows. I think for the most part, all those things, and it was always preached from Hawk through Pete. I mean, at every single meeting, there was doing things right. So that was not ever anything that was not talked about, and we still continue that. Unfortunately, what happened was something we didn't know. That's the reality.
In a past life, I used to cover the Oakland Raiders. Has anybody ever told you sound like John Gruden? You ever heard that before?
No.
No? That booming baritone?
No.
Do you use that? I mean, is it like, you got a voice?
I will now.
In the locker room.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I'm thinking
I'm going to go work on some faces and all that.
I don't know about the faces. That I don't know. But
No, I've never.
You never heard that before?
No.
You a big locker room speech guy? I mean, I think just sitting here listening to you can probably peel the paint off the walls.
Gosh, you know what? I don't know that yet. We'll see. I've done the locker room speeches, but
it helps to have a voice that can carry the day, right?
Well,
now you got
as long as it's effective.
You got a football coach's voice. You never heard
That's
that?
good. No, never have.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's just
I
buttering
appreciate
you
it,
up
though.
for whatever's coming next.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's your recorder at?
Yeah, Euro. Yeah.
Bryan, I know last year at Arkansas State, you called the plays, even with Mike Sanford coming in, or have you made a decision yet? Or?
Well, I did in some games at Arkansas State. I didn't call I didn't call the Auburn game. Then I called Troy. And the only reason I did that, Eli Drinkwitz, who's on our staff, he was the play caller. The only reason I took over in the second game is not because of his play calling. It was because the process of how the information was being passed to each other and all that wasn't where it needed to be. And so as the head coach, I'm going to get the information from guys. And I thought at that point with the staff, it was about, all right, this is how it's going to be. And so me being on the headset and calling plays and doing it that way showed those guys, this is how it needs to be communicated. This is the information I need. This is what you have to do each and every game. And then Eli went back to calling plays. He called plays in the bowl game. With Mike will call the plays. I'm going to be involved. That's just, I am involved. I take one period with the quarterbacks and coach them up on some fundamentals. And that's part of it. I'll continue to do that. I want to be involved. I'll still have an opportunity to install a play with the offense, each day, because I want to do that, because I like teaching. And I also think I've been around really good people that are really good teachers, and I've sat back and shut up and listened to how they teach and listened to how they've looked at me and how I teach and what I can do better at. And so I just want to bring that to the table with some of our coaches too, and let them see, hey, this is at least how I believe you should teach. So I want to be a part of that. And I want to make sure that from an offensive standpoint, I've just been through enough headaches and disappointments that when these guys get to a point, hey, we want to do this, and it's happened, and my answer to them is no. And that's about the best answer I got. I don't have time to spend on telling them everything about it, but we're just not going to do that and move on, and let's do something different.
I know you said you can't watch when the ball's out there, but I mean, I guess you said going into summer that they needed to do stuff on their own to keep learning the offense going into fall camp. Do you feel like you get a sense that you guys are where you need to be offensively going into fall camp?
We're close. Yeah, I mean, from what we've asked them to learn or get better at, they've done. And the reason I know that is because we meet with our guys. So when Coach Sanford walks out of the quarterback room, and it's like, hey, where's Finley at right now? He's good. He knows this, and this, and I think that really helps. And to me, that's a good rule, because I think as a player, if you're really trying to be the very best player, why would you not want to have coaches around there to teach you the game in the summer when it's relaxed, chill, and you don't have to sit there and worry about a game coming up? You can just really go home and go, oh, okay, I really get that now, and think about it, and you even have more time to spend on the game. So that has really helped us. These meetings, to me, has really helped us.
So you just kind of gave Grant a list of things to go work with the team on?
Yeah, well, every coach, we come out of spring. I mean, I met with every player, and every coach met with everybody on their team or their position. And they had three things, and I usually had one thing, to give to the player and say, this is, what, I think your approach needs to change. And coach had, hey, you got to get bigger or whatever. And so those guys have those little lists of things, and they go work on it in the summer. But just being new, I mean, naturally it's going to be knowing the system.
How do you think from a leadership standpoint it helps Grant having a summer like this and a spring ball where everybody knows that he's the guy, and for him personally to kind of, he came in the middle of the season last year and kind of had to go on the fly, for him to kind of prepare as the guy this year?
Right.
How do you see that helping him?
Right. Well, and I'll say this, I mean, we have an anointed Grant. All right, we know that he's played and all those things. I mean, I expect Ryan Finley and I expect Tommy Stewart to come out there, and we want to play the best guy. Grant has done very well. I really like him. I liked him when I recruited him, and I fully anticipate him coming out there and establishing himself, being the guy, and playing at the level that we need him to play at. I think for him, what he's done, yeah, that's helped him as a leader. What he's done with. But I think more importantly for him, and he'll know this, I mean, you can talk all you want about being the backup, like you prepare like the starter. And I asked him, I go, okay, so when you're the backup and then you became the starter, how different was it? And he's like, completely. I said, exactly. So you can talk about that. You're going to prepare like you're the starter. Until you're the starter, you don't know how to prepare. So for him, what he has a leg up on is he knows how to prepare better because he started in games. And that
Did you
needs to
guys
get
mesh the terminology, or going with Mike, just some of the Stanford stuff, or how? Or
a little bit, yeah. But, well, yeah, we did. A little bit.
How different is that? Just had you heard that terminology before? Harbaugh, the David Shaw.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard it. But it's some where they might use numbers, we use words. You got to make it all work. But you go back. I mean, a lot of these guys, and Grant included, he had been in the system that I was in. So like when we start talking about certain words and all that, they remember them. That started to change a little bit, but
Just over the years.
There's still, I mean, at minimum, at least 50% of what terminology-wise they were using last year was the same as when I was here. So there's not a huge change from that standpoint. Now, the teaching of it, and maybe it's the same concept name, and this concept hasn't changed, but you read it completely different.
So Mike has adjusted more to learning.
Yeah, but Mike, for him when he played, there's a lot of familiarity too.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just words. I mean, Stanford and what they did, we might call it dig, and they might have called it drone. It's just a word association. And for Mike, and I think Mike stayed up with what we had done and we had talked and all that. The terminology wasn't a shocker to him. Like, what does that mean?
You guys go into the league as the preseason favorite this year, but these teams in the division have kind of been on the rise the last couple of years. How aware are you of what's out there in the Mountain Division and what's been going on at those schools?
Yeah, well, I followed. I mean, ever since I was gone, I followed Boise State, so I obviously followed the conference and all that. I mean, I've seen what they've done. I've seen the teams get better. You've seen the coaches come in, new coaches, and like Fresno State, they've done a great job. The standings and all that really doesn't matter, and I think everybody would agree with me on that from a coaching standpoint. You're not ever going to admit to it anyway, and that's not the focus of it. So when it's all said and done, that is the goal. The goal is to win our division, to win our conference. We're not going to shy away from that, but at this point, we still need to figure out what the heck we're going to be and who we are coming out of fall camp before we ever talk about that. And then we'll know early, because after Ole Miss comes Colorado State. So, I mean, right out of the gate, and we'll be right in the conference. And to me, it's about that. It is about winning your division. It's about winning your conference. I know enough about the teams, about what they do, about their coaches. I don't know every individual player, but I do know this. I've read the names. I haven't seen them or spent a lot of time watching those particular players because I've been watching more scheme, but I know they're pretty good.
Would you like that pick first then, or you don't care?
You know what? It really, at this point, it doesn't matter. I don't. It's not a bad thing by any means, but I don't think, and I don't think any of our players or our coaches would really even know that we're going to be picked there. Nor would I think that's a focus. I think there's been years when being there after a period of time when you've coached, and you look at it and you pay more attention to that. Like, hey, where are we picked? Because you got guys coming back, and you're like, okay. And that becomes a motivating factor for you. But right now, that has really nothing to do with what we're trying to accomplish.
Chuck Keaton's return, though, what kind of dynamics does he bring to the Mountain Division race, and how does he change Utah State?
Yeah, he changes it a lot. He's a really good player. He's an impact player. His presence makes a difference. So, from our conference standpoint, doesn't make the coaches real happy. From Utah State, and I think college football, I'm a college football fan too. He's a tremendous player. He's fun to watch. So, having him out there, it makes our conference better. I know that he's been a guy preseason that's got a lot of hype. I know he's a potential Heisman type guy. I think that all brings good things to our league.
Yeah, I was going to say that 1 week of the year you might not.
Well,
watch this game film,
the one
but
thing,
overall, it's good for the Mountain
we
West.
got him the very last game of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about him right away. But I appreciate the way he plays.
Coach, was this your dream? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I'm good.
Was this your dream job? Did you always want to be the head coach at Boise State?
I've always wanted to be at Boise State, and I think at one point the reason why we left was then to come back and be the head coach at Boise State. So yeah, I mean this is a destination. This wasn't just an opportunity. This was a destination, and you know.
Since you started coaching, was this something you aspired to when you were a grad assistant in '01 when you won Bulldog Stadium?
Yeah.
You wanted to become head coach at Boise back then?
I wanted to be the coordinator. You know, I mean, I kind of set it in those kind of those type of goals, and I think when I was the coordinator, you know, Chris had an impact on me, and watching him, and you know, leading up to that, I mean, he really didn't want to do it, and I'm like, you're crazy. You know, this is the perfect opportunity. I mean, it's just funny how it all worked out. You know, and he came back to me. He's like, Harsin, I think I'm going to do it. And I'm like, you should.
To become the offensive
to become the head coach. You know, it was all said and done, because I don't think that was ever anything until that moment came up. And I think just being in that environment, seeing the way that we ran things there, the type of impact it had on me, yes, that was motivation to go, you know, I want to be a part of that, and I'd like to be in that position someday if it ever changes.
A lot of people don't realize at Boise State, I mean, I remember watching game film in the 90s with Bob Biggs and UC Davis, watching Pokey Allen game film going, wow, this is amazing. You obviously, you were there, you remember all that. I mean, does that help? I mean, is there anybody with more roots in the program than you? I mean, I can't imagine.
I don't know. I mean, I've watched it. You know, I've played on the blue field since I was a little guy. You know, it's been there since '87, so that's really kind of all I remember, being on that field and playing football. So, I mean, from that standpoint, you want to get sentimental about it and all that.
Did you guys have high school games there?
We did. Played our high school games there and all that. So, I mean, that stadium, spent a lot of time in the stadium. I'll just say that. And I'll say this, Boise State, I've just been very fortunate because as a player, even though I went through 4 different head coaches and all that, I've been fortunate because I've been around good people. So my experience has impacted me just because of the people I've been around. And it's happened to be at Boise State. And I think that's the most important thing. You know, when it's all said and done, it's just been so good to us that we believe it. We enjoy being there because of family, but that's not the reason. I mean, we were at Arkansas State in Texas. Family was still good, and we were there. But the people, Boise's home. But we can make it work. I wouldn't say we can't make it work anywhere else because we've done it. But I think it's a special place, that culture, and I think Boise, Idaho is a special place. And when you're gone for 3 years and you come back, you notice things you probably took for granted living there. And I mean, my wife and I now, I mean, it's all new to us, and we're like, you know, we go to McCall, Idaho, and you're like, look at that, things that we'd seen but didn't pay attention to. So that's the fun part. We've been re-energized from that.
I'm assuming we're going to see more blue on blue this year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much yet, but I am a fan of that. That's a traditional get up for us.
Any new uniforms in the next in the works for this year?
Why would I tell you that?
Well, now you got to ruin it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But I try.
But I mean, that's a question right there. If you did,
kind of finishing up some profiles of your assistants, and you know, talking to Eli, that guy. I mean, you know, he calls himself a high school coach. He was basically a high school coach 3 years ago, and now he's worked his way up. It's just kind of a great story where that guy has come from and what he's doing now.
Yeah, he's. So here's the thing. When I took the job at Arkansas State, they're practicing for the GoDaddy Bowl. So the staff, the team's all there. So I went and did my press conference and all that. There was a couple players in there. They're looking at me like, who's this guy? And I'm trying to act like we know each other because people are there. And it's just an awkward deal. We were kind of laughed about it later. You know, it's just, you don't quite know what to expect, and I sure didn't. But right when that was done, you know, we went over to the facility, kind of rushed over there, and they wanted to take pictures because they wanted to get, you know, pictures out there of the new coach and things like that. So we went into the office, and I threw on a Red Wolf zip-up, and we took pictures, and then it lasted about 5 minutes. And then the AD's like, hey, the staff's in there, you want to talk to them? I mean, just like that, and I'm like, in my head, no. But at the same time, being in that position, you know, when Hawk or Pete or was ever talked about, I mean, you don't know what's happening. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be the guy that doesn't go in there and kind of at least meet them and put their mind at ease and just tell them the truth. So anyways, I went in there, I introduced myself and just said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with anybody in this room. I know you have a bowl game. I'm going to be here, and I will meet with every single one of you guys within the next, 2 to 3 weeks before the bowl game's played and all that. And I think that was a good introduction and all that. So I walk back in my office, shut the door, and I look outside. I'm just like, like what? Just everything, kind of the whole emotion of it and all that. And I turn right here, and boom, there's Eli right there. And he is right in my face, like, I want to be here. And I was like, I don't even know this guy. I'm like, who are you? And to me, at that point, I was like, I'm sold on this dude. Because he didn't sit in there like everybody else. I'm like, okay. He was right in there, had the nerve to come in there and just say what he wanted. And then getting to know him. And I talked to him about what they did and all that. And when you start talking to him football, I mean, that guy is a supercomputer when it comes to football. So, I mean, that was a story right there. I love his passion, still do. Everything he does, and working with him when something needs to get done, it gets done, and it gets done right. There's not do-overs. Like, here's this, yep, good to go.
And then Junior Adams was talking to Bo Baldwin the other day about him, and said he's just a technician with wide receivers, and that, just really develops those guys. What would you see there through spring?
Well, that he coaches those guys. I think when he interviewed, the one thing when he talked about his players, because he had tape of his players at Eastern Washington, he knew every single one of them on film, what their deficiency were when they show up, what they got better at the film, and how he got to get them better at it. There was a process for each kid, and everyone was individual. So I sat there, I'm like, this guy knows his guys. One, he knows his stuff, and two, he knew his players. And I think he knew his players was way more important to me than what he knew from a technique standpoint. I can go help him teach wide receivers. I'm going to teach him scheme. But he was so he knew his guys so well. That was the most impressive thing to me, and he's like that. So I think his relationships that he builds with his players, I walk by his office, guys are always in there. He's always talking to a guy. That's the most important thing to me about Junior. I think he's a relationship type guy, and then on top of that, he's a really good coach.
Marcel recommend him, or where did you come up
Sel
with that?
did, yeah. Sel recommended him. Somebody else did. Oh, Mike Sanford knew who he was, and then because he'd actually come up, so he'd come up and been in our offices when I was the coordinator. I don't remember him, but he'd come up and he'd sit there in the meetings and things like that, and so he had actually been there. So he knew the culture. He knew about Boise State prior to that, and that helped too.
And then your two coordinators, Mike, obviously you've known a long time, and what do you expect out of him as a coordinator? He hasn't really been in this position before. What do you expect to see out of him?
To make it his own. I really do. He's a smart football coach. He knows, what we need to do to be successful, but he's going to do it in his way. And I think and Marcel's the same way. They're both first-time coordinators, and I feel that way when I was a coordinator. I had the support. I did it, but I had the support of the head coach. So if there was something that was an argument and all that, and we weren't getting anywhere, you know what? It was going to come down to the head coach saying, this is what we're doing. So I'd like to be that for him too, and those type of things. I also think that, I'm involved in the offense too, as far as, what we want to do. And I like to be a sounding board, in those type of situations. So, but he's going to, go in there and make it his own. I mean, put your spin on it, the flavor of it and all that. You're coaching the quarterbacks. The guy's going to be driving the ship and all those things. So, how do you want it to look? And he's already done that. I mean, he did that in spring. He'll continue to do that in the fall camp. And, naturally, and I'm going to do my best to try to stay out of his way and all that. I know I meddle, but I love offensive football, and I love being a part of it. So, I'll be in the mix there as well. But I'm excited to watch him go out there and do his deal.
He comes across as nicest guy in the world, and always smiling and laughing. And offensive coordinators are generally every little detail, and they lose their mind a little bit. So,
yep.
So does he have that side of him too?
Oh yeah, he does. He's been around the game for a long time though. With his dad and all that. So he's probably got maybe an even better approach than the rest of us. Because of that, he's probably seen and he's probably been told by his dad, hey, don't let this thing wear you out every minute of the day and all that, because his dad's seen a lot of things. So I'd imagine he's had those conversations. I think he's good with people. I really do. I think even when, and I'd be the first one, if somebody came there and butted in and told me I should do something, I'm like, I'm pissed. And he's, okay, let's see how we can fit it in. If it's really that important, if not, I don't know if that's the right thing and all that. I think he manages those things really well.
When did you see it as a player that this was his future, or did it show up a little bit later that this kind of thing was in his future?
I think you assume when he's a player because of his dad.
Yeah.
But I don't think you realize it. And like anything, it's like, yeah, he's going to go do that because of his dad. But then you watch him, and he goes on, he starts making his own career and doing his own things. He gets to go to Stanford and be a part of a team that's been in 4 BCS games the last 4 years. So he's seen, and he, from a program that was 1-11 to where they are now, I mean, he's got to be around a situation like that. I mean, I think it's very valuable for him.
And then,
Coach, talk about your schedule. We got a lot of air miles in September.
Yeah.
And then I was worried that Lafayette game. I mean, you saw them last year.
Mm-hmm. They're really good.
They're good.
They got 20 returners back.
Yeah.
Yep, they're really, really good. Coach Hudspeth there's done a great job. That's a big football team. We played them at Arkansas State, and they came in our place, and they got after us pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, Ole Miss, you're going to Atlanta, you're coming back, then you're going to UConn, and then you're coming back, and you got Lafayette, and then we're traveling. No, but that's how it is. We'll have a bye. I can remember the bye. Is that if it's before Fresno or not? I think it's where it is, right? Yeah. So, we got a little bit of time there in the middle of the schedule. I like the schedule. I mean, it's hit it hard early. You got 2 big games in the middle there, but you got a little bit of time. Then you come back. You got to finish strong. So, I think the way they set it up is good.
You have 2 or 3 Fridays this year. BYU's a Friday game.
2 Fridays.
2 Fridays.
Yep. Yeah, Utah State's a Saturday, right? Yeah. So we have 2 Fridays.
Ole Miss is Thursday, right?
Yep. So Thursday, 2 Fridays, and yep.
I apologize if this has already been asked, but with the changing landscape of college football, where does Boise State sit and where does the Mountain West sit?
Well, I think this. I mean, you're talking about the Big 5 and the other 5, and that's been the topic of conversation, right? To me, with the playoff system and all that, I hope it gives us an opportunity to have a chance to play in a national championship game for teams from our conferences to do that. And if it doesn't, I don't think that's a good thing. As far as all the other stuff, I don't know everything about the autonomy. I don't know all those things like that and what exactly it means. But I know this, when we set out there, they're going to pick, and each team in their conference, you need to go win it. Every time you play an opponent, you need to go win it. And when it's all said and done, at the end of the year, there's going to be teams that have done that. They're going to pick from those teams, and they're going to go play off and see who the best team is when it's all said and done. So, to me, I think what we're doing for the student athletes is better. I think the direction we're headed from that standpoint, from the welfare of the student athletes, the right direction. All the other stuff, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what all that means when it's all said